This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so here we go. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Nicole Hale. Nicole is one of the interns at our shelter, and one of the projects that she worked on during her internship with us is to start a trauma-informed yoga program with our residential clients. So she's going to be presenting our presentation today. So Nicole, if you'd like to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. Hey, everyone. I am thrilled to see there are so many people that are interested in learning more about trauma-informed yoga. Let's go ahead and get started here. I think Melanie mentioned, so we have GoToMeeting. This is going to last about 45 minutes. Please, I encourage you to enter questions in the group chat. Melanie is going to be monitoring that. And we'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. So overall objectives for this session, we'll do an introduction, learn a little bit about what trauma is about, what I have learned and refer to as the essence of yoga, what trauma-informed yoga is, and then we'll talk more about the program that we were able to implement at the Women's Center, and then the results from the program survey. And then I have a few trauma-informed yoga resources to share with y'all as well. So this is my intro slide here. For those dialed in, maybe can't see the slides, it reads, I couldn't figure out my purpose until I figured out my passion, and my passion led me to my purpose. So I am a non-traditional student at Stephen F. Austin, student of social work. Prior to becoming a student, I worked for a local information technology company for over 20 years. And during that time, my kids grew up and I began to question my purpose. I started taking business-related classes through Lone Star College and thought about completing my degree in management or human resources. But I still didn't have a clear understanding of my path. So in 2017, after sharing with a friend that I wanted to volunteer more in the area, she suggested that I attend a human trafficking awareness meeting at Woodlands Church. That meeting changed the trajectory of my life. It led me to want to pursue my degree in social work. I began volunteering at a place called Freedom Place. It's a residential and rehabilitation center for girls, youth, females who are from the United States and they've been rescued from sex trafficking. And it was at Freedom Place that I became inspired to become a yoga teacher. And in January of 2019, the yoga program became an official part of the classroom curriculum, the charter school that they had at Freedom Place. And that's where I discovered my purpose. It was helping others and sharing my passion for yoga with other folks. So in mid-19, I earned my 100-hour trauma center, trauma sensitive certification. In 2019 is also where or when I heard about Montgomery County Women's Center. So in classes, we had two of our professors invited staff members from the Women's Center to come speak with us about their organization. It was there where I learned more about the Women's Center and knew that I had to volunteer there. I wanted to volunteer there and again, share my passion of yoga and what I have learned as a tool to help others, share that with the folks at the shelter. So I met with Melanie and other staff members through a training class for volunteers. And after expressing my interest and learning more about the organization, I decided this is where I needed to do my internship. So that's how I ended up at the Women's Center. So what is trauma? On the left side, or one side, depending on what you're looking at here, on the left side of the page is a definition of what trauma is. The definition was provided by Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, also known as SAMHSA, and that's their concept of trauma. There are many definitions of trauma, and this is just one. On the right side of the screen, I've listed events. There are many events that may cause trauma, and these are just a few. And as I was thinking about this list, right, and thinking about some of the events that occur in someone's life, you know, sexual assault, family violence, just overall neglect. I've highlighted some homelessness, pandemic. This is one that everyone on the globe is experiencing to some degree. Going back to the definition of trauma, though, it's not the event that happens necessarily, but it's the effect that it has on the overall body, on the mind, on the nervous system. The impact that it has on the nervous system impacts the rest of the body. So from there, we go to the essence of yoga. So these are learnings from my experience in yoga teacher training. The essence of yoga is about, first and foremost, it's about breathing. It's about learning how to feel your breath, control your breath, and as it states on the slide, listen to your body and how that feels in that particular moment, whatever that moment is. Letting go of expectations. This is something that can be difficult for some. Going back to the events that caused trauma and the pandemic. I don't know about y'all, but I was not expecting to be quarantined at all, much less for the period of time that we have. And the essence of yoga is letting go of those expectations of what's going to happen next. Judgment, that's judgment of the situation, judgment of yourself, of others, as well as competition. You know, being a more seasoned individual, I will tell you that there have been times in my life where I'm not just competing with other people, but I might be competing with my younger self. And the essence of yoga includes letting go of competition and then staying in the present moment. That can be incredibly difficult to do with life's distractions, as we have so many that come about, but staying present, being all there. And then going on to the 6 key principles of trauma, of a trauma-informed approach. This information was also provided by SAMHSA. If someone's interested in creating a trauma-informed program, whether it be in their school or within their organization, these are the 6 key principles that SAMHSA recommends. Safety, above all, making sure that the environment, the entire environment is safe for not only the clients, but also the staff members, the volunteers. Trustworthiness and transparency, that again, trustworthiness and transparency with the clients. That's incredibly important, as well as with the staff and the volunteers. And then peer support. When you're incorporating or creating a trauma-informed approach, having that peer support, having individuals that can relate or connect with the other clients is really important. Collaboration and mutuality, collaborating with the clients, Going back to, being trauma informed is working directly with the client regarding what they need or what they feel, receiving their input and implementing their input. Empowerment. I find practicing yoga to be one of the most empowering things I have ever done. I'm making a choice. I'm making a choice to move in a certain direction, to feel a certain way. Having a voice and having a choice is really important for being a trauma-informed program and taking a trauma-informed approach. So many times when you go back to that list of events that cause trauma or can cause trauma, when you're going through something like that, when an individual is going through something like that, they feel a loss of empowerment. Maybe they don't have a voice, they don't have a say in the matter, nor do they have a choice. So it's important that when you're taking a trauma-informed approach, that you include those things. And then cultural, historical, and gender issues. Everyone has a story, right? So it's making sure that we're aware of that, that we're cognizant that things have occurred, and keeping those things in mind as we roll out the trauma-informed approach. I wanted to say, along with these six things, none of them are separate, right? You can't just focus on safety, or you can't just focus on collaboration and mutuality. They're not separate from each other. They all work together when you're creating a trauma-informed approach. This slide, so I wanted to play a video for you all. This is a video of the creators of trauma-informed or trauma-sensitive yoga, David Emerson and Elizabeth Hopper. So Melanie, you'll have to let me know if this works okay.
The book is written for trauma survivors everywhere, clinicians, clinicians who work with trauma survivors, and yoga teachers.
Trauma-sensitive yoga really is about befriending your body. So it's for people who have felt alienated from their bodies.
They've lost connection. They don't. Sometimes it's just numbing.
It threatens us either emotionally, physically, our physical bodies, psychologically.
Being traumatized is an experience of me losing power.
And it overwhelms our ability to cope.
And I think the healing process is about it becoming empowered again.
The idea for clinicians is really to be able to move beyond traditional cognitive therapy, where you're talking about your thoughts, you're talking about your feelings, but you're not really getting to the body level.
Maybe there's a moment where, if we get used to living with extreme levels of tension in our body, if you have a moment in a yoga class where you just feel a little bit of that drop away, and it's okay.
Just kind of a release of some of that tension. So somebody's been holding themselves and their shoulders are always up and they're always tense, and they go to a trauma-sensitive yoga class and all of a sudden they feel that their shoulders are dropped a little bit.
We've had people say, I haven't been able to sleep well for months, for years. And I tried this yoga class and I was able to rest.
Because trauma takes away the connection to self and takes away somebody's body as their own. Trauma-sensitive yoga is really about rebuilding that connection so that somebody feels more like they own their body. They live in their body. It's a safe place to be. It's a good place to be.
We use a lot of familiar yoga postures, so it's a lot of physical gestures and postures, body-oriented postures, and breathing practices.
And the framework for trauma-sensitive yoga is that there isn't an objective right way to do something, that what is right is what's right for you.
One of the important shifts is that instead of telling people what to do with their body, we're inviting people to experiment with options.
So that each person learns to listen to their own body.
Our job is to create safety. and predictability and stability, and then people can approach the practice as they like. They can create the challenges themselves as they see fit.
And it's also about creating an environment where if people are triggered or they are overwhelmed in a class, the yoga instructor is aware of that, and there's an environment where that's okay.
Okay. So that's a little bit more about trauma-informed yoga. I have a couple of things noted on this slide. So instructor use of inquiry and invitational language. An example of inquiry type language would be notice how your fingers feel, just rubbing your fingers together. Like David and Elizabeth had mentioned in the video, using the word, maybe you experiment by doing this or moving in this particular way. And invitational language would be something like as you're ready, or just for today, we try this. That would be an example of invitational language. In a typical yoga class, you would be told to move in a certain way. You would be told that you should be feeling this in a certain way. And that's not the case in a trauma-informed yoga class. Awareness of breath, I had mentioned that earlier, just being aware of your breath, creating rhythms, which is really nice, as David and Elizabeth talked about in the video, moving and noticing what that feels like and what emotions come up when you're moving in that way. Being all there, being present, I had mentioned earlier. So the slide reads, experience the present, shifting the orientation from the trauma to the now, being all there and being present and making choices. I can't emphasize that enough. And again, one of the things that I love about trauma-informed yoga is the ability to make choices, and then also practice taking effective action. I'll talk a little bit about the program that we implemented in just a bit, but an example of practice taking effective action, there have been times in the classes where the students, those who are participating in the trauma-informed yoga class, where they need to get up, where they need to just stand up and walk out, or they need a moment to just get in touch with their feelings and what's going on. And that's a great thing for them to be able to practice taking effective action in that moment. So going on to the program that we implemented at the Women's Center. So we started off by creating a self-care and mindfulness needs assessment. And it was comprised of 3 questions. We asked, how often do you practice self-care? And then gave them choices, once per day, once per week, once in a while, I never do anything for myself. And then we had, which of the following do you use to relieve stress and or anxiety? Options were spending time outdoors, meditation, counseling, physical exercise such as yoga or walking. And then the 3rd question was, how do you practice anger management and conflict resolution? Some of the choices, that particular one, we gave a couple of options. I count to 10, take deep breaths or other relaxation techniques, seeking out emotional support, just a bunch of different options. And you can see here on the slide, the question that I asked, which of the following do you use to relieve stress and or anxiety? 47% use meditation to relieve stress. So that was great to hear. 33% using breathing techniques and 87% using yoga. I contribute that 87% to the fact that the Women's Center already had a volunteer coming out on a weekly basis, so once a week, to teach just a regular type yoga class. So that was that was great to see that high percentage. The results also gave us the ability from this survey, also gave us the ability to modify the overall program offering. So based on the feedback that we received, we included meditation and breathing exercises as part of our trauma sensitive yoga class. They asked for yoga for kids at the shelter. We have quite a few kids at the Women's Center shelter. So they wanted more yoga classes for kids, activities outdoors. And then we were also able to expand the services to the transitional housing and the teen counseling groups affiliated with the Women's Center. So going on to our session format. So I have a couple of pictures on the slides, and I also have visuals for those who are watching me on the screen. I have a bag of Dove candies. I can almost guarantee you that you will not be offered candy at the beginning of a regular or a typical yoga class. The candies are used as a time for reflection and to become grounded through their senses. And what I mean by that, so each candy is in one of these little wrappers here. And you open it up, right? And you're seeing the wrapper, you're touching the wrapper. You take the candy out, you maybe smell the candy, you can taste the candy. And then the hearing part comes in with what's inside the wrapper. So I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Dove candies, but Dove candies have words of affirmation or inspiration printed on the wrappers. This one, for example, says, "You got this." And I have to tell you, it was amazing, just a story, one story behind that. When we take time at the beginning of each class, what we do is we have each person choose a piece of candy, and I usually have 2 or 3 varieties of Dove candies to offer them. They reach in the bag, they choose which one they want. They'll open up the candy, and again, going through those senses, right? And then they read. Everyone takes turn reading what's on the wrapper, what's written on the wrapper, what's printed on the wrapper. And then I ask them what that means to them today. What does that mean to them? So an example or a story, "You got this." We had a woman at the shelter who actually had 3 little kiddos, all under the age of 3, I think. And she was having a time just identifying resources and next steps for where she was going to go after her stay at the shelter. And when she picked this up and read this, just a huge grin came over her face. And she shared that she wasn't certain about the future. Reading that was words of affirmation, and she had meetings planned for later on in the day regarding housing and other assistance that she needed. Another example of a wrapper, and just in case y'all are wondering, if you can see on the screen, I've opened these candies and I did eat them. This one reads, "Your vibe attracts your tribe." So when I asked one individual what that meant to them, the response was, "I wasn't in a good place, Miss Nicole, before coming to the shelter. And, your vibe attracts your tribe. I was hanging out with some people that I shouldn't have been hanging out with. And in my short time here, I've changed that. I'm reaching out to good people, as she put it, and people that were inspiring her. And that was just a great thing to hear. Going through, we have Dove candies, and then we have yoga pretzels. So yoga pretzels are not edible. Yoga pretzels, again, if you're looking at your screen, it's a box of cards. And I've got the printout there on the slide. So yoga pretzels provide breathing techniques, yoga shapes or poses, as the video had talked about, the different poses that one can make in yoga. And then I use also what's called Hoberman sphere. So for those who can see me on the camera, I'm holding up a Hoberman sphere, and you can Google that if you'd like, also known as a breathing ball. And we use this during yoga at the Women's Center. Again, it's another grounding type activity. You're holding the ball. We take turns holding the ball. You breathe in, and the ball expands, and then you exhale, and the ball contracts. And we might take turns holding this and breathing with the ball as we go through different breathing techniques. It's very empowering. I have to tell you, when you're watching someone else and they're saying, just take a deep breath, you're breathing at their pace. But if you can hold on to something like this, or if you can close your eyes and visualize what it's like to breathe on your own, it's very empowering, especially for someone who's going through trauma. And then we have Yoga Nidra. That's just a graphic there, but Yoga Nidra is also known as yogic sleep. It is a systematic meditation and mindfulness body therapy technique. It's said that 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra is as restorative as 3 hours of sleep. It doesn't take the place of sleep, but it's said to be as restorative. And what I mean by systematic meditation is quite often, well, going through Yoga Nidra, the process will start on the right side. So we'll say something like, notice your right hand, notice your palm, notice your first finger, second finger, going through that process. Very much about noticing. I will often use essential oils and hand towels that the participants, if they choose, I have a roller essential oil, and they can roll that on a towel and hold it. They can put it on their neck, on their head. They can cover their eyes if they'd like. That's up to them. I would advise those incorporating a trauma-informed approach, though, just like candy or music. People can have aversions, or they can create triggers. So can smells. So that's something definitely I would say keep in mind. And then chair-based yoga practice. So chair-based yoga historically has been known as something that the aging community would participate in. But I got to tell you, think about how often you, regardless of what season of life you're in, how often you're sitting in a chair. I'm sitting in one now. There's a good chance that you might be sitting in a chair. So using chair yoga, it's an adaptation of traditional trauma-informed yoga poses. It can be practiced anytime from the convenience of anywhere that you're sitting. So that's really convenient. So that's the format that we use at the Women's Center for a trauma-informed yoga class. We also created pre and post surveys, and this was great, just to hear what our clients were saying, about the trauma-informed yoga class and how that was affecting them. So we had over, 25 respondents. The survey, by the way, was done at a short period of time. We ended right as the pandemic and the mandatory quarantine time took effect. But some of the questions we asked were, first of all, have you participated in a yoga session at this facility? How much pain or discomfort are you experiencing now? To what extent does your current state of health affect your ability to relax? few more of the questions. To what extent does stress have a negative impact on your daily activities? How would you rate your stress level now? Those are all pre-session. And then we would ask each participant at the end of the session to complete a post-session survey. The questions would be, to what extent do you feel physical pain or discomfort at this time? To what extent do you now feel relaxed? And then how would you rate your stress level right now? And you can see some of the statistics on the slide. Over 40% of the respondents that attended the yoga session at the shelter had attended yoga in the past. That was really great to hear. You can see the numbers. How would you rate your stress level now, as well as how much pain and discomfort are you experiencing now? Those numbers significantly dropped after each one of the sessions. Another statistic, 56% of respondents reported an extreme or significant improvement in feeling relaxed after this session. So that was great to hear. Few written feedback comments that the clients provided. You can see there on the screen. They loved it, first time coming, very calming and different. They were looking forward to yoga again. You know, some of the other things that have been said, very much like David Emerson had mentioned in his video, several times I've heard clients say, I wasn't able to relax when I first came here, and that helped me. Yoga class helps. Quite often, we were conducting yoga sessions, by the way, at the shelter twice a week, and there was a demand for more classes. So that was great to hear the impact that and affect that it had on the clients. So if you're interested in learning more, I have a few resources listed here, and as well, if you're watching me on the screen, a few books that you can see here. The Body Keeps the Score. This book has been referenced in the information that's shared in social work classes that I've taken, as well as psychology courses, other classes. By Bessel van der Kolk. It's a great book, and he has some great videos as well. Another book is In an Unspoken Voice, How the Body Releases Trauma and Restores Goodness by Peter Levine. He's another amazing person, has done a lot of research on trauma. This is one of my favorite books. And then Overcoming Trauma Through Yoga, Reclaiming Your Body. That was the book that David Emerson and Elizabeth Hopper had mentioned on the video. And, you know, I've got some articles, different informative videos, other resources that you're welcome to take a look at as well. Oh, Melanie wanted me to mention, and Melanie, you can chime in here. I'm at the questions area. So we have, is it self-care week next week at the Women's Center. So if you want to connect through Facebook, we have recorded 5 audio sessions. So 4 yoga nidra sessions, as well as 1 trauma-informed chair yoga session. If y'all want to take a look, we'll have those posted and available for everyone next week. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about how we implemented our program or any more specific questions about trauma-informed yoga, feel free to put those in the chat now. And Nicole or I will go ahead and answer those.
I think
Nicole. What do you think was your experience of teaching at shelter? What are some things that you got out of, you know, becoming an instructor and then being able to share this new found passion of yours with individuals who have experienced trauma?
Yeah, oh gosh, that one of the most inspirational times of my life is being given the opportunity to share yoga, to share my passion with the clients who have experienced trauma. Just being at the shelter and hearing from the individuals and seeing how willing they were to participate. They want to go through that healing process. There were individuals that were a little shy to begin with, and I made an effort to connect with those individuals prior to offering yoga. I think that was really key. As an intern, or if you're volunteering someone, I can tell you I had the same experience when I started volunteering at Freedom Place. You need to invest time in building rapport with the individuals. And that goes back to one of those characteristics, right, of trust. I would not have been able to walk in and day one probably have anyone who would participate. Over time, and this goes back to the survey that we conducted, over time, we had some of the same individuals coming to the class. They saw the benefit, but there was also mutual trust that was there.
Awesome. Okay, so we're getting lots of questions. First question is, what level of yoga is best for me to get trained on before I am an effective yoga or trauma leader?
Yoga or trauma. So I'll name drop. I went through Yoga Fit. It's a global association, and it is phenomenal and has a variety of classes. That's where I received my trauma sensitive yoga certification. They focus on Hatha yoga, or so I'm using terms now that are Sanskrit. Hatha yoga, yin is another Sanskrit, but what those mean is long stretches, essentially holding a pose for a longer period of time. But with Yoga Fit, they have free classes, actually. So if you want to Google Yoga Fit, they have some introductory classes. And then if you're wanting to get trained, definitely recommend go through there. Otherwise, if you're just wanting to become more informed on what trauma-informed or trauma-sensitive yoga is, I would say take a look at those references, recommended reading and articles that I shared with you. There are some great books and videos out there.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so next question is for the therapists in the room. Have you used this in therapy and helping teens or children use this type of yoga? Do you have resources for those who would like to attend classes for trauma-informed yoga? So it sounds like this question is for the participants in the training. So if you are a therapist and have used these types of techniques or this type of yoga and you have some information you'd like to share, please do so in the chat. And yes. I'll make sure I send all that information out in the follow-up email with the link to the recording of the video. They're also asking for you to repeat the name of the sphere or the ball that you are using in showing the breathing.
Yeah, this is Hoberman, H-O-B as in boy, E-R-M-A-N, I believe is how you spell it, sphere. You can Google that as well, and you can order it off of Amazon. Great tool. I learned, so a lot of the tools I will share with you, Yoga Pretzels, the books, this ball, I learned from my classes through Yoga Fit.
Okay, and you're not a train the trainer, correct?
I am not a train the trainer, no. I can teach classes. I'm not certified to train others though.
Gotcha. Okay. So some people are asking if you train. So the answer would be potentially looking at Yoga Fit, which is who you got your training certificate.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Let's courage in the background.
Okay. So Rochelle is asking, in your experience, what types of populations have you worked with? What population did you find was the most challenging?
What population is the most challenging? I would have to say that's perception, right? I try to go into each class, regardless of the population, with zero expectations. And I felt that that was the best approach. My experience has been if I went into it with this population is going to be tough, then it's going to be tough. I have very similar experiences. The populations I work with thus far have been children, toddlers, teens, as well as women, varying ages up to, I believe, 70. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I had any challenges. There were different opportunities with each population. Go into it with no expectations.
All right. Let's see. Do you find that those that are reluctant to share their, do you find that there are those who are reluctant to share their Dove candy wrappers? Maybe those with social anxiety, do they have the same benefits of grounding that those who are comfortable sharing?
I thought for sure I would come across that. And there were a few instances in the way I would pose the question. So I asked if they like candy, and some would say they don't like chocolate. And then I would say, would you like to participate? We're going to do an activity, that's your choice. And they might say yes, they might say no. If they said yes, they grab the candy. Usually they say yes because they want to participate in a group activity. I had maybe twice individuals say that they didn't want to read the wrapper. I said, that's, again, that's up to you. If you would like to share, you can. If not, that's fine. Well, inevitably, what would happen is after one person would read it, they would circle back around and say, okay, I want to read mine now. They just needed someone else to go first. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. Last question. How do you get children interested and staying focused during your classes?
They have to be short, and you have to have toys. The toys have helped, and the yoga pretzels, I'll tell you, those cards, oh my goodness, have worked out great. They're for kids, but they're also for adults. So it's getting the kids involved in making shapes. And maybe making animal sounds. I can tell you the breathing techniques that they offer through yoga pretzels. You have bumblebee breath, you have bear breath. Those things are fun, not only for kids, but also for adults.
All right. Okay. Well, that was our last question. If anyone has any final questions, feel free to enter those in the chat. We have lots of thank yous. You did a fabulous job, Miss Nicole.
Melanie, I can tell you two other questions that come up, and I've had clients say to me, "Oh, I can't practice yoga. I'm not in shape. I can't bend. I'm not flexible." So I encourage them, and I will share a little bit about our yoga class and say it's not your typical yoga class. And for that matter, anyone can practice yoga. When you realize that it's your choice and it's your body and you're not competing with other people, either with your younger self or with those around you, you can practice and you can get a lot of benefits out of that. Another question that's come up, which makes me smile, is yoga, practicing yoga about religion? And the answer is no, it's not. If you do historical research on yoga and where it was formed and where it is now, yoga has helped me develop my faith, but it's not about religion at all. Any other questions?
Okay, so y'all will be receiving a follow-up email, which will have the link to the recorded video as well as your certificate of attendance. And I'm going to have Nicole convert her PowerPoint into a PDF, and we can send that along as well. We had quite a few requests for the PowerPoint with the information as well as the video link. So again, thank you to everyone who attended. Every Thursday, we'll be offering a professional development training of some sort. Next week is sexual assault in the LGBTQ community. The following Thursday is sexual assault and strangulation. And the final Thursday of the month will be one on cultural competency. And we have a whole host of other events taking place this month virtually. So please check out our website for more information. And we hope to see you on Facebook next week for our self-care week, which will feature Nicole again, offering some recordings of Yoga Nidra.
Thank y'all so much for that. Melanie, thanks for the opportunity, and thank y'all for your interest. Bye.
All right, sounds good. And I'll put our website in the chat for those of you that are asking how you sign up for our additional presentations. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Melanie.